Ready? DJ, can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to State of the City 2025. It is my last one, and I cannot believe it. So I'm so excited to be with you tonight to share highlights of the last year, some reflections, and a look ahead. But first things first, happy Black History Month. Here in our little city, there is a lot going on. Lancaster history is elevating the contributions of Lydia Hamilton Smith and her role in the anti-slavery movement right at the corner of Vine and South Queen Street. I'm also really thrilled that Chestnut Housing has named their latest project Dinah's Hill Apartments, honoring the life and legacy of Dinah McIntyre. You can clap. Dinah was a formerly enslaved woman who won her freedom and went on to become a property owner of several parcels in the Strawberry Hill neighborhood. And soon be on the lookout for the Witness Stones, a collaboration of the African American Historical Society of South Central Pennsylvania, Historic Rockford, and the School District of Lancaster. So Black history is all around us, friends. So just take some time, get to know about our history as a city. I know this is something that when I moved here in, I don't know, what year was that, 2007, it was hard to find this history. And now it is becoming more and more available to the general public, and also is going to become more and more available to the folks that are visiting our community from around the globe. So I'd like to recognize a few people that are here tonight. So first, I'm going to give a shout out to Representative Nikki Rivera and her colleague, Izzy Smith-Waddell. Today was the passage of this, was the introduction, not the passage, the introduction of the state budget. So they had a full day. But Nikki sent me a text wishing me well, and I know that we are excited for that state budget, always, to get passed on time. So we appreciate that today was the first step. I'd also like to recognize, and this, can we put the lights up a little bit? I'd also like to recognize Commissioner Yoder, Alice Yoder, who's in the house. Thank you for being here tonight. And we have members of Lancaster City Council, and we have our treasurer, I think I saw, and controller. Could you all stand, all the elected officials, just stand up. All right. And we have an MDJ in the house. Thank you for being here. Okay, awesome. Thank you all. You know, it's easy. Sometimes it's easy to stand up here and take credit for all of the work, but this is a job that is that I get to do because there are 600 people behind me. And so if you are one of those 600 people that work for the city of Lancaster, will you please stand up? Really awesome. So, and last but not least, I get to recognize my mom who's here. Thank you, Bonnie. Today, I don't need to tell my mom this, but today would have been my parents' 55th wedding anniversary. So my dad's not with us anymore, but love never dies, Mom. Love you. And I have my sister who's in the house. Thank you, Renee. I have my in-laws, John and Judy Recknagel. Thank you for being here. And Margie, my mom's friend, who thank you for being the driver tonight. Appreciate that. And I'll have more to say about my dear sweet husband later. Okay. He's also in the house. I'm glad that business trip got canceled. All right, let's begin with a quick look back to my first year in office. Here I am on day one, brimming with excitement and that first day on the job feeling that all things are possible. My brother-in-law quipped that I was sworn in so that I could get sworn at. And 14 days later, boy, did I get sworn at. A lot of parking tickets were issued because folks didn't move their cars for street sweeping because it had snowed. Fast forward to today, and we are street cleaning, which could be street sweeping or plowing. And that, my friends, was the day I got even clearer that we needed to do a better job communicating with our residents. And it is a never-ending task. A few months later, following a contentious city council meeting, I got a call very early in the morning that a fire had been set at City Hall. Following an investigation, we learned that the perpetrator paid $40 to a guy from York to do this in retaliation for actions that my administration took to address neglectful housing conditions. We learned a lot from that experience, but our commitment to ensuring safe housing has remained steadfast. Last year, our inspectors completed 5,000 inspections. We've made changes to our ordinances that have increased our efficiencies as a team, and we are doing more with fewer staff. We created the first Department of Neighborhood Engagement, and as a community, reimagined how we collaborate with our neighbors, making sure that new voices were at the table no matter what neighborhood you live in or what language you speak. Yeah. Our work building engagement has been nationally recognized. In February, that's this month already, a new case study by the Local Policy Lab, which is a national nonprofit that works to support civic engagement, will be released highlighting our efforts, and another round of Love Your Block grants is coming on Valentine's Day. I also just want to give a shout out to part of our civic engagement includes the Neighborhood Leaders Academy, and that's been a partnership with the J.P. McCaskey High School, so we've got a whole bunch, yeah, we can give a shout out for J.P. Has been engaging a lot of students, and the most recent class we're working with, wow, they have big ideas about how to effectuate change in our city in the ways that they see needs as young people. And I also want to give a shout out to Church World Service, who's going through some really hard times right now, but they have also had a Neighborhood Leaders Academy for newly arriving refugees to help people orient to our form of government, how to interact with our police, how to use 911, how to identify when they need to call our housing inspector. That program was also really critical as part of our civic engagement efforts. And if you haven't been paying much attention to what's happening with CWS, I encourage you to follow along and engage as you can. Okay, a few weeks after the firebombing, there was a tasing incident in June of 2018, which put Lancaster City in the news globally. I mean, I was hearing from hundreds of people, phone calls and emails demanding change from as far away as Germany and Brazil to right here in our little city. This led to a lot of learning for me about our use of force policy, which ultimately was rewritten to reflect current best practices. And I thought nothing could beat 2018 and the challenges that came our way. And I was really happy to have that year in between for a bit of a reset, but I was so wrong. Do you all remember this? Then George Floyd was murdered. Protests erupted around the world, and our commitment to racial equity was renewed, a commitment that remains through our intentional investments, policies, and procedures. Coming out of COVID, we were awarded $39.5 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds, which allowed us to make historic investments in housing and homelessness services, community benefit organizations, and it helped supplement our budget, keeping our staff employed and our property taxes flat. These funds were a game changer. And if you just, like, the best part of my job is going to hang out with those little people that are on the right. Those are kiddos from Univision, and they're just exceptional. So turning now to public safety. This is the largest investment that taxpayers make every year in our police and fire bureaus. And I am so proud of our police bureau and the work that they are doing. Together, we have been through a lot during my time as mayor. The leadership of Chief Richard Mendez and his command staff has been instrumental in leading change. Growing up on South Queen Street, I'm not sure that he thought that he would be the first Hispanic police chief in the city's history, but then life leads you places that you don't predict. Calls to the police bureau have gone down over time, and they have stayed down, reflecting the impact of our proactive efforts cumulatively as a city. Following a comprehensive staffing study last year, we are now able to reduce our target number of total officers to 128, down from 145. Over the past few years, we've overhauled our recruitment efforts and have brought on new officers, and we need more. Our applications for new officers and cadets just opened on February the 1st, so help us spread the word, and Sergeant McGregor's in the back if you want to go say hi. Our detective division exceeds the national averages in bringing cases to closure, meaning that they solve crimes and bring justice to victims. We've also added a new police social worker to the team, Kelly, who's pictured here on the right. Grace and Kelly have led with compassion and tenacity because navigating the social systems and networks that are available for support is hard, especially for our most vulnerable. And they have helped our most vulnerable get access to the services that they need. I'm particularly reminded of a story that I heard about their work getting an elderly gentleman off the street and into a nursing home. And it had been the first time he had been in a bed in months. And stay tuned, the Bureau is on the cusp of becoming an accredited police agency for the first time ever. And it has been a process. So this is just one more example of the ways in which our police bureau is continuing to lead. Now turning to the fire bureau. Wow, when I came on board in 2018, there hadn't been promotional testing in a while. And since then, we have built a leadership team now that is led by Todd Hutchinson. And this team, well, let me tell you, we have 4 members that are credentialed as chief officers. There are only 54 in the whole state. We have 5 credentialed fire officers, and there are only 40 FOs in the whole state. And we have 1 credentialed as a fire marshal. There's only 6 in the whole state. This is impressive and speaks to the commitment to training and excellence that our fire bureau has taken on. And I really appreciate the leadership, the steadfast leadership of Todd and his team. And, since 2018, we've also built 2 new fire stations. We've been able to replace the frontline apparatus, and we installed over 2,400 smoke detectors in homes across the city. We've also hired 26 new firefighters, which represents over 1/3 of our suppression staff. The future is bright for our public safety teams. Okay, we've also invested a lot in our public parks, and in the process have created more and better play spaces for our neighborhoods. Here we are in Culleton Park, still COVID times, when we were reminded about how critical it was to have outdoor spaces. And this day felt so good to be outside, celebrating, and be in community after spending so much time apart. I just remember this day so vividly because it was a day when I finally was able to realize hope, that there was going to be an end to this. And Milburn Park, named after Violet Milburn, honoring her legacy for caring for others. And Ewell Plaza, honoring Barney Ewell, our Olympian, a man who broke barriers. And I also just want to point out that pictured here also is Ron Ford. He's on the right behind the statue holding the cane. He was the first Black city council president who went on to become a county commissioner. Ron recently passed away. I want to just say rest in peace, Ron, and that you broke barriers too. Longs Park Wetlands. Yes, this is stormwater infrastructure, but it's also in a park, and it's added a unique destination within the park for visitors to connect with nature. And the Binns Park refresh. So we've done upgrades to lighting, landscaping, painting, and more. This is named in honor of James and Rumi Binns. And here are their grandchildren and great-grandchildren celebrating at the ribbon cutting. And those kids were cold after that because it was early spring and they were soaking wet. But there's something about that fountain, you just gotta run through it. And there's more to come. The city just finalized its next parks master plan with an emphasis on reimagining 3 southeast neighborhood parks, South End Park, Joe Jackson Tot Lot, and the Yule Gantz Playground. I'm really excited for these projects to get underway. All right, let's talk about paving. Second to parking, I hear it all the time. Mayor, when are you going to pave this street? So on the right is a map of the streets that have been paved since 2018 to today. In total, there have been 25 miles that have been paved, which is about 20% of all the streets in the city. The yellow streets represent work that's been contracted out, and the green represents the streets that we have paved because we have brought our paving operations inside. We've been able to save about just over $1 million by doing this work in-house, and that means we get to pave more streets with that savings. So the crew on the left are a few of our dedicated DPW employees who are getting the job done, and I so appreciate their work. 2024 was a big year for Vision Zero. We have 17 miles of bike lanes now. And I take it as a personal victory that people are complaining that we're not clearing the bike lanes fast enough because now we have bike lanes to clear. So we're going to continue doing more to support our pedestrians and bicyclists and our cars, our drivers, safety in every neighborhood through improved traffic calming and safety measures. And so, you know, it was really nice to have Secretary Pete come and walk with me down Lemon Street and get a nice shout out. We know that these efforts are supercharged by Safer Streets for All grant funding, and there's a lot more to come. So particularly in the Southeast neighborhood, South Duke Street, Church Street, Ann and Juniata, Chesapeake and Broad Streets, all are in progress. Okay. Moving on, lead. You've heard me talk about lead hazards, and this has been a focal point for me for quite some time. We received our first record-breaking grant to remediate lead south of King. What year was that? 2019, I think. And since then, our team in CPED has completed nearly 500 projects, 500 homes. And in October, yeah, that's a lot. And in October, we got the news that we were awarded another $7.8 million from HUD to keep that work going. This is just a small portion of the grants we have under management right now. We are at $83 million, up nearly 200% from just 2021. There's no doubt about it. Grants power so much work, and we're paying a lot of attention to the recent rulings that are halting or delaying efforts to get this money out into the communities that have work underway. So follow along with me. And then last November, voters in Lancaster overwhelmingly adopted the city's new home rule charter, and this indeed was a historic moment. I want to give a special thank you to the Home Rule Study Commission members that are pictured here along with Judge Jody Richardson. I think I saw Commissioner McGran, Commissioner Byrd. Who else is in here that I'm missing? Carl, yes, Carl Feldman. Okay, just keep calling out. Yeah, Pete Barber. Okay, you get the idea. Okay, and Tony Dastra, thank you. I just want to thank the commissioners for giving more than a year of their life to find a better path forward for our city government. These meetings were hard and tedious and you spent a lot of time in this space, and I could not be more grateful. And with the passage of the Home Rule Charter came a long to-do list that, wow, we're working our way through. So the Transition Committee met last week and heard from our solicitor, Barry Henberger, about how we are approaching the work. So stay tuned for more as this work unfolds. There's a lot to do in a very short amount of time. In addition to implementing the Home Rule Charter, we've got a little thing called Our Future Lancaster. Maybe you were here when we rolled this out a couple years ago. We've jumped in feet first under the leadership of Chris Delfs and his team in the community planning and economic development. We have 3 small area plans that are getting started. You may have seen some information about these out in the lobby. They include the northern end of the Sunnyside Peninsula, the east end, including what will soon be the former prison, and the stadium district around Clipper Magazine Stadium and the train station. So lots more to come as we implement our comp plan. And then we also have the tourism master plan, which was also a part of our comprehensive plan. And that's going to be finalized in the coming weeks. I'm really excited about this. This is the first 10-year city-specific plan that we've had for tourism development. And it really dovetails with our governor's focus on increasing tourism here in Pennsylvania. We are going to embrace this plan with an eye towards preserving our historic community, empowering our local economy, and enhancing the quality of life for everyone. Tourism is not just about other people, but it is about welcoming guests. And on the map on the left, you can see our visitor data between June 2023 and July 2024. That's where all the people came from to visit us. That's kind of amazing, isn't it? So we know that about 16% of those visitors are coming to the city by train, confirming that our Amtrak station has a lot of potential and is a significant asset. Which brings me to transportation. This was another element highlighted in the comp plan. And 17% of households in the city of Lancaster do not have a car, and 44% have 1 car, meaning that our public transit, our walkability, and our bike network are crucial for people to get to work, get health care, go to school, go to the store, etc. So improving public transportation and better connectivity with Amtrak, the bus station, and added bike routes are all part of this. I am eager to see continued progress here from the South Central Transit Authority and other partners. In the meantime, we've continued to elevate public transportation through our tutorials as part of Lancaster on the Move series, as well as supporting the microtransit feasibility study that SCTA is doing, along with its public participation plan. So we're really leaning in, trying to help really develop this microtransit project, because we know that our residents need to connect to places in the county, and people in the county need to connect to places in the city. What would a state of the city be without talking about housing? It is the issue in every single community in America. And back in 2021, we launched an interim housing strategy outlining goals for the next 5 years, including the creation of 2,000 new housing units, and 15% of which would be affordable. Today, we are at 600 new units built, 13% of which are affordable, including this project here by HTC. We have 950 additional units that are in the pipeline. However, after all the work to get those 950 units through land development, I'm not sure that they're all going to come out of the ground, at least not this year. And this is due to a variety of factors, mostly related to financing costs and just the uncertainty of this particular moment. We're talking about tariffs now. There's a lot of different pressures. But one of the things that I am grateful for is that we were able to seize a moment to be able to add to the housing stock in the city, to turn vacant parking lots into buildings. And I also recognize that affordable housing will not be built without subsidy. And our ability to provide some subsidy was fueled directly by the American Rescue Plan Act, and the funds that we received, and the support of City Council in dedicating 25% of those funds to housing. And I know that this will remain a challenge for future administrations at every level of government. We have to figure this out. And in the meantime, we need to continue to address homelessness in the city of Lancaster. One of the big highlights of last year was the opening of the Clay Street Shelter, co-located at Otterbein United Methodist Church. This was more than 2 years in the making. This was 2 years in the making after we found a site. It's $3.2 million, and fundraising is still going on, and there is no long-term committed funds for operating the shelter, so we need to continue to advocate. I know this does not solve our housing crisis, but overnight, literally, there were significantly fewer people sleeping out of doors. I am really grateful to Commissioner Yoder, who is spearheading a county strategic plan to build capacity in other communities around the county. We learned when the shelter was operating on Prince Street that over 80% of the residents, or the people who were staying in the shelter, were residents of Lancaster County. They were from all over the county. The city alone cannot provide services for the entire county, and we are carrying, and have been carrying, more than our fair share of water relative to homelessness. Every community in the county Every community in this county needs a plan, and they need the community to speak up loudly when there are efforts to actually implement something, but zoning fails because residents don't want a shelter in their backyard. These are their neighbors. It has happened time and time again. We've seen it happen in Ephrata. We've seen it happen in Columbia. We need to be louder in order to support our residents across this county. And we also need to be louder in making sure that the organizations who are doing this work get vastly more resources. So, this is my call to action to you, to stay engaged on this particular issue and to pay attention to not just what's happening in the city, but also what is and isn't happening around the county. And while I'm on this topic, I just cannot thank enough the work of the partners that are in this space. They're doing it because they believe in serving others. This is such hard work. The Lancaster County Homeless Coalition, Tenfold, the Lancaster County Food Hub, the Water Street Mission, Anchor Lancaster, Blueprints for Addiction Recovery, and the numerous churches that feed so many people in our community every single day, as well as the number of other organizations that I did not mention, and please forgive me for leaving you off the list. It is truly a blessing that we have so many resources in our community, and those resources need to be where people live too. Okay, switching gears, I want to spend some time talking about water. Just read those numbers for a minute. I think about water a lot, as do many of our staff, some around the clock: drinking water, storm water, wastewater, all the water you don't want, all the water you do want, all the water you rely on every day to brush your teeth, make your coffee, all the things. And we have some really significant challenges ahead of us. First, we've got some really old infrastructure. We've been working on replacing the city's large diameter water main, which is about 6.2 miles of pipe that looks like this. I just appreciate this picture because it gives you the sense of scale of like how big these pipes are. All in cost to do that 6.2 miles, about $60 million. We're about a third in. Another challenge, PFAS, also known as forever chemicals. You probably got a letter about this very recently, maybe even today in the mail. While we are currently operating under state guidelines, the Biden administration also rolled out new regulations which would effectively reduce the threshold to 0. This is caught up in litigation right now, and we're also waiting to see how the Trump administration is going to weigh in on this issue. In the meantime, we've been doing our own testing. Where is this PFAS coming from? And lo and behold, it's coming from upriver. And so we know that we need to address what's happening upriver, upstream from our Conestoga treatment plant, because the all-in estimated cost to fix this little problem, $80 million. And how many of you know what your lead line looks like? Yes, all right, yay, thank you. So in Lancaster, we know that lead paint is the main culprit for our kiddos having elevated blood lead levels. However, we've got some new EPA regulations that are requiring us to fast track the elimination of lead lines in our water system. So while everybody should be aware of whether or not you have a lead line coming into your home, please also know that we are treating the water to prevent corrosion and that lead leaching. That did not happen in Flint, Michigan. These are the differences, okay? I just want everybody to be clear that our water is meeting all of the requirements related to lead and lead monitoring. But a big part of this work is creating an inventory, which is why I asked, did you know what you have in your basement? So the most common are copper, plastic, lead, and galvanized metal. We had to submit an inventory. We did that in October. And also, we need people in the city and in the 10 municipalities we serve to help us, because just to finish the inventory, it could cost us another $16 million. And if you help us, we can reduce that amount. And then the cost of replacing the known lines, we have about 700 now out of 50,000. So this is just give you a sense of, like, we're not talking about a lot, but we are talking about some. That's going to cost $19 million. And now stormwater. So we signed a consent decree in 2017 to address our combined sewer overflows, the main goal being to reduce those overflows into the Conestoga River when it rains. And we've made progress. We've gone from about 65 a year to 48, which is a 26% decrease, largely thanks to our 200 rain gardens and all the other stormwater infrastructure that is around the city. They're soaking it up, they're doing their jobs, and I appreciate that we've all gotten a lot smarter about green infrastructure in the city of Lancaster. I also just want to say this is why why street cleaning is mandated, which is that we need to keep the debris out of our sewer system. And in 2024, our street sweepers collected how many tons of trash? Give me a guess. No, a little less than that. 341 tons of trash. That's a lot of trash. So this is just your friendly reminder to move your car on street sweeping days, because we are required to do this. And in March, we will submit a final draft of our long-term control plan for feedback from the EPA. Then mark your calendars, because on April 3rd, we're going to have a public meeting to review in greater detail the long-term control plan itself. The estimated cost, TBD. But safe to say, tens of millions of dollars. Now, if this has all got you thinking about how on earth can we afford all of this, you are not alone. I've been crunching numbers on how these mandates will impact water affordability into the future, and I am very concerned about how families, especially our low-income families, will afford these rising utility rates. Per EPA guidance, the same federal agency that is requiring us to spend all this money states that families should not be spending more than 4.5% of its median household income on water. A community should not spend more than 4.5% of its median household income on water. Obviously, that masks the people that are below the median household income, because they're going to spend more than 4.5%. And that concerns me, because right now, 19% of our city households can't afford their current city water and sewer rates. And with the added cost complying with the mandates and repairing and rehabilitating the systems that we rely on every day, that could increase to 43%. That is not going to fly. We have to come up with a better solution. I am currently chairing the U.S. Conference of Mayors Water Council, and I have been talking about water affordability ad nauseum for the last 18 months or so. And I was glad to see the EPA acknowledge that affordability is an issue nationally, but how they will balance the regulatory drivers with affordability has yet to be determined, and a lot of it will depend on the new administration. Okay, now I get to the lessons learned part about what it means to have been the mayor for 7 years and a month and a few days. So many lessons learned. Wow. So I'm just going to share a few with you. Lesson number 1, it all takes longer than you think it should. And the example that I'm going to give tonight, just one of them, is auto pay. I talked about this last year's State of the City address and said we were going to get it done. And friends, we did not get it done. We had repeated delays, and I just want to thank the Treasury team for sticking this out, because this has been painful with our subcontractor, to the point we had to withhold payment to get them to actually do the thing that we needed them to do. So I'm delighted to tell you it is coming, and I'm also really afraid to say exactly the date when, but this summer it's coming. And maybe if I set your expectations for late summer and we deliver in early summer, you'll be even more excited. So we are working really hard on this. But back to the lesson of it all takes longer than you think it should. You know, anything that requires funding, which is like everything, all of those park projects I showed you earlier came to be because we had to assemble different sources of funding from different pots of money in order to make those projects happen. And that takes time. And if for some reason we're not successful in one grant cycle and then we have to wait until the next grant cycle opens, that adds a year, just like that. And another thing is staffing. You know, our executive leadership team tells me this, is like, you know, Mayor, if we had more bandwidth, if we had a bench, if we had depth in our teams so that we weren't just responding to the crisis of the day, but that we could also be doing more intentional implementation of all the things, the list would go faster. We are lean. And also, if there's a vacancy for any reason, just add 6 to 12 months to any project that we're doing, because it's really hard to ramp up when you've had a delay. And so I have learned that it all takes longer than you think it should. Lesson number 2, it really takes longer when vision and culture are not in alignment. Wow. And working in city government is not for the faint of heart. There is little room or grace that's given for making mistakes or just having a bad day. And people rely on us every single day. And you know, there's a lot that we can't change about that dynamic, but what we can do is really be intentional about the culture that we are creating inside our organization in order to be able to meet the needs of our residents. So we're a big organization. We're 600 people. We have 3 unions, and this work has been done in every single department. There's really been painful as well, because we've had to make decisions to get the right people in the right seats so that we could move as one. And today, that I can say without reservation that the city's executive leadership team is not only committed to the work at hand, but it's committed to the people who are doing the work. And that really matters. Now, we don't get it right all the time. I will be the first to tell you. We are a perpetual work in progress because we're human and organizations are made up of humans. but we're committed to getting it better, getting a bit better every single day. And I am so grateful that every one of the executive leadership team members has, leaned into this through their own personal leadership development, working with, coaches to help them build new teams, doing performance feedback and 360 performance feedbacks for themselves. All of these things matter. And I just couldn't be more proud of the people that I work with. And truly, that is going to be the thing that I'm going to miss the most about this gig. Okay, lesson number 3. At the end of my very eventful first year in office, which I just did a little recap of, I sent a letter to the executive leadership team with a quote by Theodore Roosevelt called "The Man in the Arena." This is probably familiar to most of you. I'm just going to read the first line. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. The man in the arena? Okay, all right. I knew you would, Tim. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, or in this case, the woman. Most of you know that I played field hockey for decades, and I know what it means to celebrate victory and feel the sting of defeat. To trip, fall, miss, score, to carry my teammates off the field when they blew out their ACL, or cheer them on. And I have come to think about this job as if I'm on a field, and a lot of people are watching. Surrounded by my teammates, coaching staff who are critiquing and offering advice, and people in the stands who are cheering for you to be successful, because we're all in it together, whether it's a game or because we all live in this community. But there are some that revel in sitting in the cheap seats, far from the field, the nosebleeds, if you will. They are loud, they're mean, they're calling me names like "Mayor so lousy," and other names that I heard in 3rd grade on the school bus. I've heard it all. And over time, I've learned that these voices, those people that I refer to as sitting in the cheap seats, matter very little. And that in life, it's best to respectfully ignore them. It sounds easy, but sometimes, anyway. It matters much, much more to listen to your teammates and your coaches, the people who care about you and who are willing, in fact, brave enough, to tell you when you don't get something right to your face. And the cheapest seats are the keyboard warriors who don't even show up to the game. And these are often the most emboldened. And what's not funny is the toll that takes, particularly on women in office. So this is a survey of women mayors that was recently completed by the Mayor's Innovation Project. This is not published yet. We're going over this data a few weeks ago. Women mayors reported harassment more than men as candidates and on the job, and experienced that harassment at least 3 times per month. Women mayors face significantly more questioning of their abilities than men, more than 2 times, and 40% reported sexual harassment on the job. I can make fun of and make light of what it means, but I will tell you that we have to be better than this. Okay, lesson number 4, only 5. People are more than one thing, even those people that are sitting in the cheap seats. I'm not talking about people when they are at their worst moment or having a bad day. We know that people are more than that, or at least I hope we do. I'm talking about the ways that people show up that are at complete odds with what you think they should be. It's a combination of how our brain works and sorts and pigeonholes people based on their political affiliation, where they live, who they love, if they shower before they go to work or when they come home, where they worship, if they worship. The list is endless. We are just constantly sorting people. It is part of the human condition. And what I've tried to be as much as possible, and look, I am not perfect at this, is to be open to the ways that people might surprise me. It has worked in both ways. People I've held in high esteem, or those I would have expected something more from, I don't know why, but I've been really disappointed by. And other people that I may not have initially trusted for some reason have shown up in ways I just absolutely could not have predicted, like in really good ways. And I guess because I've learned this lesson over time, that people are more than one thing, this has allowed me to maintain a level of compassion and empathy. We might not be best buds, but I've moved on. Hopefully you have too. But it's really gotten me through some difficult conversations. But it only works if the other person is willing to see me as more than one thing too. I'm not just a Democrat. I'm not just a mayor. I'm not just a mom. I'm not just a wife. I'm not just a fill in the blank. I'm a person who has life experiences, and I'm curious and interested to know what yours are too. And what I have found is that when you find the common ground, especially today, that feels so elusive, doors open and possibilities emerge for things that you can't even imagine. And there is a closeness that even if you're on completely opposite spectrums on any issue, and let me tell you, Democrats don't always agree. Hello? Can I get an amen for that? Let alone if you're an independent Republican, whatever you are. And why are we constantly reducing ourselves to the initial after someone's name? We gotta be better. We have to come together as a community and a country. We have much more in common than what divides us, and we have to not be played. We are being played. And last but not least, lesson number 5. This was my wedding day. Christian and I were walking down Charlotte Street on the way to our wedding reception in September of 1998. Not in a million years would I have imagined that I would be the mayor of Lancaster. Not ever, ever. So there's really 2 lessons on this slide. 1, it matters to have a partner in life who loves you and who gives you extreme grace when you're having a bad day and who shows up for you no matter what. Thank you, Christian. I love you. And number 2, say yes. I remember so clearly the first time someone asked me if I was running for mayor, and I said yes out loud. I mean, that was scary. Saying yes has led me here to this moment with all of you, and I would do it all over again. Onward, Lancaster. Thank you so much for the honor of serving as your mayor. It's my pleasure. And I got 10 more months to go. Thank you. Thank you. 10 months to go. Thanks, Steve.
Good job.